Hello everyone, hope you're doing alright. Today we're talking about the Saboteur Gunslinger. It is a weird hybrid AoE dot single target damaging spec that can be kind of intimidating when you first look at it, but it's actually pretty straightforward. So let's talk about it. It's going to be very, very simple by the time this video is over. But it's just a brief disclaimer, as usual, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I'm just a nerd that plays a lot of SWTOR. If you have any recommendations or things that I miss, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. Help out your fellow players. I'm sure they would appreciate it. All right, for your tertiary stats, looking at 110% accuracy in PvE, and then you can kind of get rid of as much as possible in PvP. We do a lot of yellow damage in the spec. I personally run 105%, so I don't miss, but it's really up to you. A lot of people dump it. For your alacrity, you're looking at 7.2% alacrity. That should compensate for most of your lag issues, and then just dump the rest into crit. We do a whole bunch of crits in this spec. It's very, very handy. For your tacticals, for PvP, take Ionic Discharge. It does a whole bunch of damage with your explosive charge. It's very, very nice, but it's not really great for sustained damage. So we're going to be focusing on Ruthless Interrogation for right now. Ruthless Interrogation is your primary single target, high damaging tactical for Saboteur. It's going to refresh your shock charge every time you use Speed Shot, and then it's going to make your Blazing Speed do a whole bunch more damage. For your legendaries, let's look at Locked and Loaded. It's going to give you 5% extra damage for our range and tech damage. It's great. 5% free damage. Love to see it. And then we're going to take Energy Regulators Package. This is actually the most important legendary here. The 1% per one energy per second while we are in cover is very, very important. Our rotation is actually energy negative. It makes the spec kind of tragic to play, but Energy Regulators kind of fixes a lot of those problems. So you want to get it as soon as possible. For our combat style, we're going to take sequential targeting for the extra explosive crit damage on our explosive charge. It's going to give us a whole bunch of extra damage. For 70 or 27, you can either take Quick Draw if you're in like a sustained fight, or you can take Flourish Burst if you're doing more like leveling content. It's kind of up to you. Doesn't really matter. Quick Draw is slightly outperforming, but that's only in like sustained long like boss type content. Flare Splash is perfectly fine if you want to. If you want to, you can take Dodge Stance. A lot of people take it in PvP. It's up to you. Moving at the tree here, Aim Assist is just going to be extra 10% critical chance on the single target. It's just the best. Then we're going to take Kill Streak, which is going to increase the critical hit damage by 20%. It's very, very nice. It's also pretty nice for leveling, so that way you can get the target hack over and over and over again, which is very, very nice. 51, we're going to take Ballistic Damagers. It's just the best. For 64, we're going to take Efficient Ammo. It's just the best. For 68, it's kind of dealer's choice here. Scrambling Field is useful always in all PvE and PvP content. Below the Belt is great for PvP. And then Hideout is kind of situationally useful, but personally, I'd rather just have Scrambling Field. It's kind of up to you, though. And then finally, I take Heads Up here. It's just the most useful of all the options. You can also take Hot Wire Defense if you really want to. For us, Hot Pursuit really isn't that useful because we have a lot of abilities that aren't casted anyways. So, let's talk about actually doing damage with the spec. Now, people are easily intimidated by this spec because they think that there's a lot going on. And there kind of is, but there's also kind of not. There's a whole bunch of interactions that you don't really need to know about. So let's cover the very basics here of what you need to know. First, let's cover our dots. Our primary dot is our Shock Charge. Shock Charge you will throw onto the target. It does 41,000 damage at the course of the next 18 seconds. It's a lot of damage. However, with our tactical, it's actually going to be kind of a set it and forget it thing because of our tactical, every time we use our speed shot, the duration of our shock charge will be refreshed. So it's not just going to be, 41,000 damage at the course of the next 18 seconds. It's going to be ticking from the start of the fight to the end of the fight. It's pretty darn useful. You never have to worry about your shock charge falling off because we're going to be using our speed shot all the time. Now you're going to notice as I use my speed shot here, we're gaining these little stacks of Blazing Speed. Blazing Speed is our secondary dot. Blazing Speed is stacks up to 3 times and can be applied by doing damage with Speed Shot. It can be applied by doing Thermal Grenade. It can be applied by using a a Charge Burst, wow. Or it can be applied by using Quick Draw. It stacks up to 3 times and has a very short duration. So our goal is to be able to keep this Blazing Speed at 3 stacks throughout the entire rotation to make sure that we're not missing out on that juicy extended dots damage. you're going to notice that when we hit 3 stacks of blazing speed, our Sabotage is going to start to glow. Sabotage will do more damage the more stacks of blazing speed you have on the target. So what that means is that if I have 3 stacks here, I'm able to use my Sabotage, boop, and then do a whole bunch of damage because I had 3 stacks on the target. Now, Sabotage is only useful on a target that has a shock charge on it. So, for example, if this shock charge decides to wear off, I will no longer be able to use my Sabotage, but we're just going to throw shock charge on at the beginning of the fight anyways, so that's never really going to have to be something that we worry about because it's going to be applied all the time. It's very, very useful. So now you can see I can't have my Sabotage on because shock charge isn't on the target, but if we use our shock charge and then a speed shot, get up those 3 stacks, Sabotage start to glow, so you say, ah, yes, it's time to hit our Sabotage button, boop, does a whole bunch of damage. Now when you use Sabotage, you're going to see that your Thermal Grenade starts to grow. Thermal Grenade is free to cast, so that's why it's glowing. If you see it glowing, it's free to cast. Great, love to see that. So the 2 dots we have so far are Shock Charge and Speed Shot. Speed Shot will generate as little stacks of Blazing Speed. Blazing Speed is applicable through Speed Shot, Thermal Grenade, Charge Burst, and Quick Draw. When you have 3 stacks, your Sabotage does more damage. Sabotage makes your Thermal Grenade toss no energy. Buddy, he is currently eating a treat. Relax. Relax. We have one more dot to worry about here, and that is our Vital Shot. Vital Shot does about 22,000 damage. It's not that impressive. However, it gives the little debuff of Marked. Marked increases damage from ranged attacks for the next 45 seconds. So it's a great little debuff to have, and it does a fair bit of damage, which is pretty darn nice. So, 3 dots. First dot, Shock Charge. Second dot, Blazing Speed, applicable through a couple of different abilities. Third dot is our Vital Shot. Now let's talk about some more of our primary damaging abilities here. So we mentioned Sabotage does damage to the target based on how many stacks of Blazing Speed we have. Thermal Grenade does a moderate amount of damage, like 18k damage. It's also an AoE ability, so that way anyone standing around your primary target is also going to take some damage. Additionally, it's going to restore 5 energy every time it does damage, so it's a nice little way to manage some of that energy, and it's going to build a stack of Blazing Speed. It's a great little handy ability for us here in Sabotage. Additionally, we have our Charge Burst. Charge Burst is a very default ability. You've probably used this since level 2. It charges up, target's going to evade, cool. It charges up, does a little bit of damage, cool little animation, and applies a stack of Blazing Speed. It's fine. It's a nice little filler ability, does a fair bit of damage, but nothing really to write home about. The real star of the show, though, is Explosive Charge. Explosive Charge does like 35,000 damage, but what it does is that when you use it on the target, it will sit here until it takes damage, until the next time the target takes damage from your attacks. So you can see here it's just kind of chilling right now. The target's going to evade at the worst possible moment because now I have to fluff for 7 more seconds. So let's try it one more time. Throw Explosive Charge on the target. Here it is. Now if I apply any damage to the target, boop, it detonates. Great. It also leaves the little stacks of contingency charges on the target, which means that every time it takes damage afterwards, your screen is going to shake. It's going to do a great little animation. Duke's going to stop eating a tree over here. There we go, bud. And then it is an extra way of doing a lot more damage afterwards. You done eating foliage? No. Apparently the leaves are delicious, or they're just fun to chew. So, those are our primary damaging abilities. Let's talk about a couple more, and I promise we'll make everything really, really simple afterwards, all right? So, Bombing Run. Very short cast time. 1 second cast time. Does a whole bunch of damage to the target. Has a moderately long casting time, or a moderately long cooldown, though, so it's not going to be available all the time. Leaves a little burning area down here and does a whole bunch of damage over the next couple of seconds. It is an AoE ability, which is pretty darn nice. Additionally, Incendiary Grenade. Throw it down. It's an AoE ability. You can see here it does a large AoE. And additionally, when you use it on a target, it's going to get overwhelmed, which means it's going to take more damage from AoE effects for the next 45 seconds, which means it's going to take more damage from both itself, Incendiary Grenade, and it's going to take more damage from your bombing runs. It's a great, easy way to do a lot more AoE damage to the primary target. Okay. let's recap really quickly. Primary dots, shock charge. Apply it to the target. It should stay there forever because it can be affected by our speed shot. Speed shot, thermal grenade, charge burst, quick draw, apply stacks of blazing speed. Blazing speed is an extended dot. When you have 3 stacks, your sabotage will start to glow because you're going to do more damage because we have 3 stacks of blazing speed. When you use your sabotage, your thermal grenade will be glowing, which means that it will be free to cast and help you regenerate some of that energy. Vital Shot is our third and final dot here. It does a whole bunch of damage over time. It's a great little ability, and it's going to mark the target and make the target susceptible to more damage. Our Incendiary Grenade is going to make the target overwhelmed, which is going to make it take more AoE damage. Our Charge Burst is a single target ability. Applies a stack of blazing speed. Pretty nice. Explosive Charge, high damaging ability, and then detonates later when it takes damage as well. That's a lot of interactions. That's a lot of interactions. I can hear the gears spinning. But I promise you, the rotation is actually very straightforward. We're going to be taking advantage of all these different buffs so that way you don't have to think about them. You can just follow your rotation, and then your buffs will be automatically applied and taken advantage of over the course of our little rotation. You can see I've built the rotation here using these quick bars. The rotation is built into essentially 2 sections. The first rule is that we're going to be using Speed Shot and then Incendiary Grenade back-to-back on cooldown every time. Because Incendiary Grenade lasts 9 seconds and the cooldown to Speed Shot is essentially 9 seconds, we can just apply them back-to-back, and that way they always are on the target, and that way we are never lacking our Incendiary Grenade. One quick note here about AoEs, in case you didn't know this already. If you just double-click an AoE ability, it will automatically cast it with the target in the center. So if you don't see me like actively aiming this AoE every time, it's because I'm literally just double-clicking it, and that way it'll apply right to the target. So, how this rotation works is it's built around using Speed Shot on cooldown, and then Incendiary Grenade right afterwards. And then what we have is essentially 3 abilities between each Speed Shot and Incendiary Grenade. All right, between each SSIG or SIG, we'll call it SIG. Duke's really excited. Between each SIG, we are going to be using 3 abilities in a row. All right, so we had to find a way to max. You done? You want to come up? You want to come back up? You want to come back up to Daddy? All right, fine. Fine. So between each SIG, we are going to be using 3 abilities back to back to back. So really all you need to know is 2 mini rotations. So we're going to go Speed Shot into Incendiary Grenade, and now we kind of begin. We're going to assume that we have Shock Charge on the target for the time being, because frankly you should always just open with Shock Charge. That's to make sure it's on there forever, and then it's going to stay on there forever because we're going to be using Speed Shot on cooldown. So if we went Speed Shot and then Incendiary Grenade, we can just start from the bottom half of this rotation. The first block of 3 is going to be Sabotage, Thermal Grenade, Vital Shot, and then SIG, Speed Shot, into Incendiary Grenade. And the second part of the rotation is going to be Thermal Grenade, Charge Burst, Explosive Charge, SIG, to Grenade, and now Sabotage, Thermal Grenade, Vital Shot, and then SIG. And this is really all it is. Into Thermal Grenade, Charge Burst, Explosive Charge, SIG. If you can just memorize these 2 little mini 3-button rotations between each of your SIGs, you're going to be perfectly fine. This is the primary rotation for Sabotage. It's very straightforward. Again, Thermal Grenade, Charge Burst, Explosive Charge, SIG, Speed Shot, Incendiary Grenade, Sabotage, Thermal Grenade, Vital Shot, SIG. What we're doing is we're applying all of our primary damaging buffs to the target, making sure that we are taking advantage of all of our high damaging abilities, and then just flowing through the rotation, chilling, vibing, taking advantage of all the buffs that we're getting and keeping our dots on the target all the time to make sure that we are actually being effective when it comes to applying all of our damage buffs and getting off all of our high damaging abilities within the course of our rotation. It's actually kind of fun once you get into the flow of things. Normally I'm not a clicker, but I'm just demonstrating with the little block here. If you want to build this block for yourself, you can totally do it this way. I would not blame you if you're just learning it, but that'd be perfectly fine. Now you're going to notice here that I have these little abilities up here in the top left corner. That is our bombing run and our quick draw. That's because bombing run will actually replace our charge burst whenever it's off a cooldown. All right. So for example, right now bombing run is off a cooldown, so I'd go thermal grenade, bombing run, what? Explosive charge. I then SIG, 2, 3, 4, grenade, sabotage, thermal grenade, final shot, SIG. It's very straightforward. But now you're going to see that we don't have bombing runs, so we're going to use our charge burst instead. And essentially what happens here is you just rotate back and forth between charge bursts and bombing runs. It's pretty self-explanatory. So you can see now we're coming back around, bombing run's available. So next time instead of a charge burst, we'll use a bombing run here. It's a very simple filler ability here. Additionally, when you get below 30% health, you're going to replace the thermal grenade in the primary explosive charge rotation with quick draw. And that's all the changes in burn if you're using the quick draw feat. If you're not using it, totally fine. Just don't worry about it. Literally don't worry about it. If you can nail down this rotation, then you'll be perfectly fine with doing damage in Saboteur. You'll be able to dunk on all your friends who are playing dirty fighting and tell them that they're bad, that they're getting outparsed by the person who's playing the crazy, weird Saboteur spec instead of the flavor of the month dirty fighting spec. Just nail down that rotation and you should be good to go. Now we do have one little offensive cooldown here called Target Hack. What Target Hack does is it makes your next explosive charge auto crit, which is very, very nice. Additionally, it's going to increase the damage of all of your probes by 10% for 20 seconds. So every minute or so, you're going to have a free auto crit in your explosive probe, and you're going to get that 10% damage buff. I would just hit it whenever it comes off a cooldown. The auto crit lasts long enough so that way it lasts through the entire rotation, and then you want to be getting the benefit of that 10% or extra damage as often as possible. So just smash Target Hack whenever it comes off a cooldown, and you should be ready to rock and roll. We do have an interesting defensive toolkit here, the first of which being our Hightail It. Hightail It is a little roll, gets you moving 18 meters into the future. Additionally, it is going to leave little mines behind you, so that might do some damage to people if you're going to roll through them. It's not a lot of damage, but it's something. You're also immune for the 1 second that you're using Hightail It, so if you are a high-tier gamer, you can avoid some damage, like some Doom mechanics and Dread Guards, etc. But, it's not that bad. Additionally, we have our defensive screen. Defensive screen will absorb 30,000 damage. Not great, not terrible, nothing to write home about, but, could be worse. Additionally, we have our Hunker Down. Now, Hunker Down can only be used when we are in cover. For those of you that don't know, you have to be in cover to do a lot of damage. When we are in Sniper, you don't actually have to be in cover to use our abilities, but it's what's going to give us the extra benefit of our energy regeneration, which is pretty darn nice, obviously. And then whenever you're in cover, you can use your Hunker Down to take 60% less AoE damage. So if you don't want to move for a mechanic, you can obviously pop this and take a whole bunch less damage. Additionally, you cannot be stunned or moved when you're in Hunker Down, which is very, very nice. Additionally, we have a knockback here. Knockback of Pulse Detonator. It's going to knock people away from you. That's all there is to know. If they get too close, they want to touch your no-no zone, don't let them. All right, use that Pulse Detonator, knock them back. And finally, we have our Bag of Tricks, which is going to reset the cooldown of your Surrender, your Defense Screen, your Pulse Detonator, and your Hunker Down. So if you need more defensive cooldowns very, very quickly, you can always pop a Bag of Tricks, and then you should be good to go. For you PvPers, please use your Diversion. Diversion puts down a little AoE field here that's going to lower a target's accuracy by 45%, but it's not useful on any operations bosses. It won't do anything, which is very, very tragic. Additionally, it will knock other slingers and snipers out of cover, which is pretty darn nice. That's kind of all I have to say about that. For those of you who don't know, please use Crouch instead of the Find Cover system. Crouch will put you right down where you are. Finding cover will throw you into fire. That's all there is to say about that. Hey, buddy. So, I think that covers it. If you want, I will paste this little rotation here in the description below, so that way you can watch it and then memorize it and love it and hold it forever. But that's all I have. Hit like, comment, and subscribe if you want to play Sabotage like a real gamer instead of the dirty fighting nerds. But that's all I have at the moment. Hope you take care. Enjoy yourselves. Ta-ta.